wanted to kind of get back into free agency, and the Pistons re-signed a guy that they traded for last year in Simone Fontecchio. And I kind of wanted to get your take on this. The number seemed kind of low for me, like 2 years for $60 million. I feel like if Troy was here, it would have been like 2 for 35.
Yeah, it does seem like the previous regime placed a high priority on Fontecchio and like what he brought to the team, and like I really liked the way he played last year. I really liked the way, like, again, just as like a wing guy who could shoot, like that was something the Pistons desperately needed. I was also surprised. I was more surprised by the length of the deal than the number. Simone is obviously an older, like a young, like a rookie or not. Like he was still a restricted free agent, so like very early in his NBA career. But I think he's 27 right now. It's like that's an unusual circumstance. So I wondered if it was a way for him to be on the Pistons, but like still go back into the market in a couple of years when the cap is going to be really big. And so like that $8 million right now might be the same as like 15 or 16 in a couple of years. So so yeah, but like I love the signing. He was a guy I wanted to bring back. I did think he played really well with Cade, and he fit really well with the team. It's very easy to imagine the kind of role he will play, even on like this team. Like again, as we talk about building a team with shooting around Cade, like he accomplishes that. He's a better defender than like the Beasley and the Tim Hardaway Juniors that we've talked about already. He's got a little bit more size. He's a little bit more like athletic and fluid than I thought he was coming into the season. And so yeah, I was pretty happy with it. But yeah, like you, I was surprised that it was like just $8 million a year and just 2 years.
Yeah, I'm 100% happy that I was wrong, because I did a podcast earlier with Pistons Thoughts, and me and him were like, maybe 20 million a year. Like we were way off, because like I thought that's like the type of bag he could command, because he's a really underrated player. And to your point, like he's sneaky athletic. Like he doesn't seem like a guy that could just put the ball on the floor and dunk on your head. Like you look at him, you're like, oh, it's just a spot up shooter. He's not gonna do anything. But I was happy with like how cheap the deal was. But to your point, maybe the 2 years is just kind of dipping his toe in the water, and maybe he wants to sign with a contender in 2 years. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like as a restricted free agent, like it's a whole complicated process to get him to go to another team. And so even if he's like, hey, like I want to be in Detroit, but I also want the opportunity to be a unrestricted free. I want to be able to pick where I'm going to go in a couple of years. Maybe that's Detroit. Maybe Detroit's a great situation to be in 2 years from now. But like for now, like if I'm going to be here, like let's make it a short-term deal. It's like, okay. Like I hope that works for him. I hope he has a lot of success here in Detroit, because like that will mean good things, right? Even as we talk about like Ron Holland and Asar, like he's a guy who should be playing over those guys like right now, right? And in 2 years, you hope Ron Holland is like in that lineup, like doing what a lot of or playing a lot of those minutes. Probably not doing the exact same stuff Simone does, but playing minutes for the team.
Because I've seen this debate across Twitter. I know this is kind of going off subject. Do you see him more off the bench as a second unit player, or do you think they just put him in the starting lineup to provide more spacing for Cade?
I would start him. I would start something along the lines of like Cade, Beasley, Simone, Tobias, and then like Duren. That's what I would go with. I understand the idea of splitting up, like essentially like splitting up Simone and Tobias to allow you to play like one of Asar and Ron, and like not have two non-shooting wings on the floor at the same time. Or if you have multiple wings on the floor, like one of them can't shoot but one of them can. But I think if the point again is to just like put as much spacing around Cade as possible, like that to me means playing Simone like with Cade. And I presume like Asar will play. I don't assume like Ron Holland's going to play right away. He's one of the youngest guys in this year's draft. I think he just turned 19. So like I wouldn't be surprised if we don't really see Ron Holland like in the rotation featured heavily until like January or February, right?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think Asar defensively offers more as of right now. But to your point, maybe they kind of bring Holland off slower because they don't really need him to start like right now. Like he can kind of, watch, learn, go up against second unit guys and just develop that way.
Yeah. And I think it's been sink or swim for a lot of the Pistons rookies over the last couple of years, especially as they've been bad. It's like, okay, well, let's run these guys out and see what they got. And I think that was like a little bit of what Monty was trying to do. They're like, hey, like we want you to earn the opportunities and play well enough. They just like didn't have the talent to block some of these guys from playing. But Simone, like Simone right now is a much more complete NBA player than Ron Holland is. Like you expect Ron Holland to get there, but like again, he's 19. He's not going to come for him right away. Malik Beasley is a much more we know what Malik Beasley brings to an offense, and if he's shooting the ball well, it's like that's a dimension we need, perhaps like more than Jaden Ivey's like ball handling, like in the starting lineup, like next to Cade, right? And so it's like there's going to be lots of you can play guys and you can know what they bring, but guys, so the young guys will have to earn their minutes. But it's also these are short-term commitments, right? Like Beasley's here for 1 year, Simone's here for 2 years. It's like there's a clear runway, there's a clear path for guys like Ron Holland to play. It's just like not right away, right?
Yeah, which I think is the right approach. Like you don't want to just throw them out in the fire. Kind of like how like you look back to like the 2020 draft when they just like threw like Isaiah Stewart and Killian and all those guys and Sadiq out there, and like I guess it's a different philosophy. I guess if you ask coaches, like because some coaches will just throw them out there and let them develop and learn their mistakes, but other coaches will kind of like have them play. But if you make a mistake, you're like sitting out. Like I vividly remember Van Gundy like ripping out Stanley Johnson every time he missed a defensive assignment. Maybe Bickerstaff could kind of be like a similar type of philosophy in terms of like not developing bad habits with like, mishaps and stuff like that. But we're gonna have to wait and see.